Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am so excited to be here and introduce this demonstration today with Certified Master Baker, Heather Moore. My name is Marissa Veely, and I am the Director of the Retail Bakers of America. For those who aren't familiar with the Retail Bakers of America, or RBA, we're a national nonprofit trade association that focuses on supporting the success of the baking industry. And we are this amazing community of bakers and educators, business owners, cake decorators, and students from across the country. And it's RBA's mission to provide a community for idea sharing, networking, mentorship, as well as support education and excellence in the industry. I wanted to give a very big thank you to the Washington Red Raspberry Commission as they help support this event. Washington State produces 90% of the nation's frozen raspberry crop. The Washington Red Raspberry Commission is an excellent resource for baking industry professionals. So be sure to check out their website, redraz.org. I'll throw it in the chat for free resources where you can find great recipes and information. As I mentioned, I am here with Chef Heather Moore, a certified master baker and an amazingly talented instructor and pastry chef at Schoolcraft College in Michigan. So Heather, I am going to turn it to you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, my screen keeps going in and out. I can hear you better than I thought, actually, so that's great. So welcome. Thank you. I have some people here live. Some of our students are here live, and welcome to everybody online. I hope you can hear me well. I'm not sure if you heard me tell Marissa. I won't be able to, I can't hear too crazy well if Marissa stops to ask questions, so it might just be a little bit delayed. The students will stop me if they see anything up on the screen. So today I am going to be showing you how to do a gluten-free chocolate raspberry entremet. And gluten-free is just becoming one of those things that's more and more popular. Our president of our college here at Schoolcraft is gluten-free, so we're always trying to come up with some creative new things because he's at every event. When Marissa approached me about doing this demo and asked to include raspberries, I thought that would be a great thing to do, raspberry, and also have it be gluten-free. In the packet that you would have received from Marissa earlier, you can see some information about our culinary program. We're located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're interested in furthering your education, highly recommend coming here, Schoolcraft College. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to obviously do things a little bit with the magic of the cameras and having things ready. Thanks to my lab assistants, Henry and Rosie, who have been working the past 2 days to get each of these pieces ready. But we're going to go in order of the way kind of that we're layering it. So we're going to start with our crispy base. So this base, usually we use fouilletine, but I'm swapping it out for Rice Krispies because they're gluten-free. So they just took these and they blended them lightly in a RoboCoupe just to break them up so that they're not full still, right? So they just kind of, I don't know, well, you can see we just kind of broke these up a little bit, and we're going to just dump that in the bowl. And we're just going to mix that with our hazelnut paste. And then our melted chocolate, which I have over here. All right, perfect. So I'm just going to mix this all together. And it'll look kind of just like Rice Krispie treats, but with chocolate instead. You okay if I set these here? Okay, thank you. All right, and then I'm just going to mix this together. My paste is still just a little bit cold. We had it in the cooler, so if your paste is at room temperature, this will mix together just a little bit easier. And I'm just going to mix this till it's thoroughly blended. Give me a second here. Like I said, my paste is a little bit cold. And then I have 2 Silpats here. If you don't have Silpats, you could do this between parchment paper too. All right, so now that this is brought together, kind of looks like, I don't know, chocolate Rice Krispie treats, right? I'm gonna dump this onto my Silpat. I'm sorry, I have 1 Silpat here. Okay. And then I'm just gonna fold, or no, I do have 2, okay. You can tell I didn't set up my own stuff. I'll just have this folded in half, and I'm just gonna pin this out till it's nice and thin. And then this is going to give us that nice texture. So part of an entremet, you should have lots of different flavors and textures. So this is gonna give us that crispy flavor, or I'm sorry, the crispy texture in our entremet. So you can do this really in any shape. You could do these as individual if you wanted to do retail. We have one of our students, Allison, who is also helping in here somewhere, is going to be competing at the ACF National Conference next week. And so we had some custom molds made by our welding department. So we're going to use one of those molds today. But you can see, I'm not going to open it up because I want it. Well, you can see I'll open up a little bit, but I'm going to throw this in our blast chiller. You could throw it in the fridge. You could throw it in the freezer. Really, if you were doing this and you don't have the luxury of having a blast chiller, then you would just kind of do these components a day ahead of time so that they could freeze overnight. You want all of your components really frozen so that you can pick them up and move them around and layer them really easily. Okay, so that is our crispy hazelnut base, and I'm going to hand that to Henry. Let you take that, please.
Chef
All right.
Heather, we had a
So
question about
move.
we had a question about the base. Would you be able
Yeah.
to swap out any different nut paste if you want to do something like pistachio rather than the hazelnut?
Yeah, you can actually. I really don't recommend the pistachio base though, or paste. We actually tried that for one of the components for Allison for nationals, and it's just a really unappealing look. It tastes okay, but it really just, it's not very appealing looking. So you can definitely, you could swap it out, almond butter, you can do peanut butter even. So you can swap that in for all kinds of different pastes, but the pistachio one just kind of gives this off-putting kind of look. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our chocolate raspberry cake. And so this is a flourless chocolate cake. And where is my sheet tray for this, guys? I have a half sheet tray, and to keep this from sticking so that I can unmold this easily, but also still keep this gluten-free, I had them line the sheet tray with parchment paper, spray it with pan spray, and then dust it with powdered sugar so that this will still release and not stick to the tray, but keep it gluten-free, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is Rosie has already started it for me so that you don't have to wait, but she's keeping and you can keep that warm, Rosie, for right now. Thank you. She's melted together our chocolate. We use 62% chocolate for this, unsalted butter, and our salt. So all of that has been sitting over a double boiler, warming up, so you don't have to wait for us to get that melted for you. Okay, now the next thing is we're going to whip our egg yolks, and then we're also going to make a meringue. So we're gonna kind of do this at the same time. Our egg yolks can sit for a little bit after they're whipped, but really when you make a meringue, you want to use it immediately, right? So that it doesn't start to deflate. So we want to make sure that we're hitting this where we're ready with our meringue so that we can immediately fold it into our cake batter. So I'm going to go ahead and there it goes. I'm going to get this whipping. And we're going to get this so that it's really light. It'll get like a pale Easter egg kind of color, and it'll thicken up because we're aerating it, right? We're trying to whip some air into our egg yolks right now. So I'm going to let that keep whipping. And then they warmed up my egg whites for us. So remember, we should always use our egg whites. Yeah, move it so that they can see. Thank you. We always want to whip our egg whites when they are room temp or warm so that they stretch more easily. And I'm going to start on a slower speed because remember, think about your egg whites like a coiled spring, right? And so if they were cold or if they weren't relaxed right now, I could whip them, but I would rip those protein strands apart and I'm not going to get as much volume out of my egg white. So that's why I want to keep them nice and warm. And it's the same thing with why I'm starting off on a slower speed. Starting on a slower speed to kind of finesse those egg whites and ask them to nicely uncoil so that I get a nice Okay, sorry, my screen went out. I thought I lost you, Marissa. Just so that I can get the most amount of volume out of my egg whites. All right, so now that I was nice to them, we'll kick it up and let that really start to mix. All right, I gotta really, this one's a little faster than this one. I'm gonna slow this down actually. This is taking a little bit longer in this mixer. Sorry, try to pop it up just a little bit. You know how when you have a small amount in there, it's not one to hit. All right, I wanna let that get a little bit thicker before, I don't want my meringue to get ahead of my egg yolk, okay? So I'm waiting for that to start to really thicken. And there should be a pinch of cream of tartar in with it. They probably already put it in my egg whites. So we always add cream of tartar because it's an acid, helps to denaturize the proteins. It'll help it keep more, the meringue more stable too, right? All right. So I'm gonna gently rein in my sugar, not to deflate my egg white. All right. And I'm gonna keep that just on kind of a medium speed right now, only because I'm trying to get those yolks to whip up a little bit faster for me. Sorry, Al. Okay, I'm probably gonna pull this just a little bit early. Whenever all eyes are on you, it's like watching paint dry, right? It's gonna take a little bit longer than it feels like when you're in the kitchen by yourself. So you can see, hopefully on the screen, I don't think you can see that well down into my bowl, but I'm gonna show you here in a minute. Here we go. My egg yolks have turned pale in color. Can you see? I can't see. My instructor screen went away. Can you see it? More? That way? Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys. See, it's nice to have the students here helping me, Marissa. You can see that it's gotten pale in color and that it's starting to thicken up. Really, I could have let that go even just a hair longer, but just so that everybody doesn't have to wait, I'm gonna pull it now. All right. So my meringue, I'm gonna keep actually on the soupy side. Okay, I want it to be still really soft and liquidy. So this looks good. Yep, that looks really good. So I'm gonna let that keep going just on the slowest speed so that my meringue doesn't start to dry out. And Al, is this the one I need right here on the end? This one's me? Okay, thank you. No, I'm okay. Thank you. All right. So we're gonna mix these two together. And I'm going to use like a stir folding technique to not deflate my eggs, right? Yeah, thank you. Can you guys see? Okay, so I'm just kind of gently folding these two together so that I'm not deflating my eggs, right? Because I just worked hard, or the mixer worked hard for me to keep this nice and light. Okay. All right, now that that's a nice cohesive mixture, I can take my meringue, just shut it off, and now this is going to get folded in. You guys have a larger bowl just so that they can see? If you don't, can I have that large bowl on top? Thank you. I'll transfer it to another bowl just so you can see the folding technique a little bit better. Thank you. Okay. Here we go. I could have really folded this right in the bowl, but I think it's just easier for you to see on camera the folding technique if it's in a wider bowl. Okay, so you can see when I'm folding, I start in the center, up and over, right? Up and over. Now I'll start to fold in my egg whites. And I'm also turning my bowl as I'm folding, right? So I'm keeping this nice and gentle. And again, we did a really soft, almost soupy peak on the meringue. So we don't have to worry about any meringue clouds or anything within this batter. I don't know if that's a technical term, Marissa. I don't think it is, but I call them meringue clouds.
I like
When
it.
you're left with these meringue chunks in your batter. Okay. So I'm going to finish folding this all in. And then we're going to immediately get it in our pan. So like I said, you could do these in any shape. We're going to bake this in a half sheet tray. So even if you wanted to do these for individual retail, it's still a good idea to do them on a sheet tray like this, and then you can cut them out into whatever size shape that you want, right? Put all of my batter in. Okay, and then I'm going to use my offset to spread this out. I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to deflate this, right? But I want to make sure that I'm using a really nice flat sheet tray and I'm getting this nice and even so that it'll bake evenly, so that I don't have thick spots and thin spots. All right, so I'm not going to fuss with it too much, but I do want to get it even. Okay, beautiful. So now, is this me? Now we're going to use our IQF raspberries. You could use fresh raspberries too, but this is for we're Raspberry Washing Commission. Did I get that wrong, Marissa? I'm sorry.
Raspberries. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we're going to be putting in our IQF raspberries from them, right? So, and it's a great way to use up, baking is a great way to use up fruit anyway. That's not, perfect enough for garnishing necessarily, right? But we want to reduce our food waste and still utilize everything that we have. Sending it to the bake shop is a great way to use stuff up. I used to work at a place called Joe's Produce, and we were in charge of making sure that any of the produce that wasn't, perfect enough to sell out on the floor, at least got utilized. So this is a great way to do that, or to utilize IQF fruit. So I'm just kind of studying those in my batter. And then I'm going to put a piece of parchment paper right on top. And I'm baking this with a piece of parchment paper on top so that it doesn't form a skin and kind of dry out on the top. It'll help kind of lock it in and keep it nice and moist, and avoid that skin that could form. Okay. So I'm going to bake this on a rack at 400 degrees. We're in a deck oven right now. So if you're in a convection oven, probably more like 375 is what I would recommend. And we're going to do this until, it kind of springs back to the touch and picks out clean. All right. So I'm going to slide this in. You guys just wipe that down. I'm going to rinse my hands real quick. Thank you. Okay. So now we have our crispy base ready and our cake is in the oven, but with the magic of streaming things, we have our cake ready, and ta-da, here it is. Okay, so this is that mold that I was telling you about that we're going to use today. You can use any mold though, like I said. So they already have this set with that crispy base cut out and in there. Also, the great thing about that crispy base, with it being the chocolate and the hazelnut paste, is you can cut it out to the size that you want. Whatever scrap is here, you could just reheat that over a double boiler and reuse it. Okay, so we cut that out. That's in here. Next is our raspberry preserves. So I'm not going to take the time to make that today. I didn't think that that was that important to do on camera for the sake of saving some time. But this is a raspberry preserve recipe. You can swap it in for other fruits, but you'll have to adjust your pectin, right? Because different fruits have different pectin contents just naturally. So for here, we used our IQF raspberries again, and the raspberry puree. So that's all in here. They made this for me earlier today. And we have our cake, right? So I am going to spread on some of my raspberry preserves, just in a nice thin layer. And I'm keeping everything really cold. I like to work with this stuff when it's frozen so that I can easily pick it up and move it, right? I would never do this with a hot, soft cake. My mentor, Chef Decker, always said that the freezer is your friend as a pastry chef, and that is a very true statement. Okay. So I'm going to throw some gloves on now since I'm touching some ready to eat foods. And I will slide that in. I'm going to flip it upside down and get that into my ring or into my mold. I have my mold. Actually, it's warming up quick in here. And this is a really delicate soft cake too. So I'm just going to push that down into my mold. Okay. Nope, I'm good. Thank you, Al. That was Allison. I don't know if you got to see her or not. That's the one I've been talking about. Huh? All right. So we're going to get this back into the blast chiller while we work on our lemon curd. Okay. Okay. So they have my lemon curd ready for me. We had it in a couple different stages. We weren't sure on timing how this might work out. So I think I'm just going to show you how we're going to mold this. Thank you. So here they have, these are just some bars that we use for chocolate work too, right? We do these with pork ganache and stuff in between them. And so I just have some nice flat sheet tray with parchment paper and my bars. And I'm doing that to keep my lemon curd really nice and level, because if you're going to build an entremet, and it's an entremet, should I say, because truly an entremet should, you know, be encased in the mousse and then completely glazed. I think that this is kind of just a cool showing all the layers. So if you're going to show the layers, they better be nice and even, right? So, but certainly you could build this without showing the layers too. Did you guys already measure this? Am I using all of this? Yes. Sure. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, so we're going to dump this in. And then I can use my bars here in a minute. Can move them in and out to ensure that this is nice and even. So pull this to the corners. Slide that in slightly. All right. Now I can use my bars to make sure that this is perfectly level. Right? And again, if you don't have a blast chiller, and really even if you do, it's a good idea. I would have done this all a day ahead of time, right? Day ahead of time so that all this can set up in the freezer. Okay. All right, so now I have my lemon curd all set. I'm gonna put this one into the blast chiller. They did do one earlier for me so that I have one nice and frozen. So I will trade you Henry. I don't know if we're gonna have time. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk you guys through the lemon curd. Allison's gonna start actually making some here. Let me layer this in, and then I'll talk you through that recipe too. All right, let me throw some gloves on again. And so now I have my lemon curd. So really, like I said, you would have this stuff done ahead of time, and then I could just not really stop in between. It would be, here's my cake, here's my lemon curd, right? Okay. So now I can pick this up, move it, right? Because it's nice and frozen. Maybe that's a creme brulee layer or something. So I'm hitting another texture and another flavor now. It's gonna have nice pops of lemon, which is complementary to our raspberries and our chocolate. All right. So now that is in. And let's talk through that lemon curd recipe really quick. All right, so in here we have 4 lemons, and you're gonna take the juice and the zest of those, 3 eggs, 2.5 egg yolks, and we put grams beside for you guys too, and sugar. So the first step, I'm sorry, that you're gonna do is you're gonna take that gelatin sheet and you're gonna bloom it in ice water. Okay, so set that aside, bloom that in your ice water. Then in a double boiler, you're gonna heat together that lemon juice, the egg yolks, and the sugar. You're gonna keep whisking that, cook it to 180 degrees. Once it hits 180 degrees, you'll kind of wring out that excess water on your gelatin sheets. Because I'm putting it into a hot mixture, I can add that right in. And I put that in, whisk it up, and then start to whisk in a few cubes at a time of my butter, right? So that'll keep that nice creamy texture that way. All right, so that's how we would do our lemon curd. So now I'm gonna demo how to make the chocolate Chambord cream. So this is like my absolute favorite cream. Actually, this was in my wedding cake. This is like my favorite, this recipe. So, all right, so Allison, you have my chocolate melting. You guys got my chocolate melted? Okay, let me just grab a few things here. Where are we at? Yep, if I could have that chocolate melted, please. And then let me just grab a couple of these ingredients, guys. Nope, just get it melted, please. So they already bloomed my gelatin sheets for me. So those are set aside, ready to rock and roll. So same thing, you would have bloomed your gelatin, or I'm sorry, this is granulated gelatin that we use in this recipe. I bloomed the gelatin in my raspberry puree and my Chambord, which is a raspberry liqueur, right? So with all of these recipes, they're kind of great, just base recipes too, that you can swap other things in for, right? I could make my lemon curd or raspberry curd if I wanted to, or a lime curd, right? Same thing with the chocolate Chambord cream. Allison and I actually played around with it because apricot is one of her market basket items. We made that into an chocolate apricot cream, and it was delicious. So you can swap in different purees, different liqueurs, and change the flavor profiles too. Okay, to make a completely different entremet, but using these same base recipes. Okay, so the first thing that they did was we bloomed our gelatin. So we have our raspberry puree, our Chambord, and our granulated gelatin. You can see that that's fully bloomed. We're going to set that aside. Now I'm going to start whipping my heavy cream. If I can get this open. And remember, heavy cream is the opposite of egg whites. We want to whip this as quickly as possible because we are trying to not warm up our fat molecules, because we want them, that's what's going to trap the aerosols, right? So I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to whip this as quickly as possible without it splurting out and making a mess. Okay. So while that is starting to whip, and I'm going to watch it very closely, I am going to, thank you. I am going to whip together my egg yolks with my sugar. So one of the properties of sugar is it's hygroscopic, which means it's water loving. So it will draw the moisture out of these egg yolks, and it'll actually start to cure them. It'll start to cook them. So you have to be careful about adding in your sugar last second, right when you're getting ready to start whisking, because if it doesn't start moving around, you're going to get these little dried out, cooked looking egg yolk pieces within your egg yolks. All right, I'm going to get this whipping. And again, I'm trying to incorporate air, right? My cream is almost ready. I'll make sure you guys can see here on the camera. I whipped my cream to a super soft heat. So it's still very, very soft. This way? This camera. This one. I see it. Thanks, guys. So it's very soupy looking still. Very soft heat, okay? That's gonna keep it as a nice creamy mousse. All right, let me clean up and move a few of these things. Thank you, Al. And I'm gonna keep whipping this till it's really nice and light. And why don't you guys start heating up my gelatin for me while this is whipping? So I would keep my cream cold. I'm gonna put this down below. I have some refrigeration down here. And can I get a large bowl, guys, to mix this in, please? Okay. I don't need this mixer anymore, so I'm gonna just use this one. And I'll show you guys here in just a minute. We're looking for that same Easter egg, pale, kind of yellow looking color. Thank you, Henry. And it'll get nice and thick. So we're gonna time this. We're having good mise en place. We're making sure everything is ready, right? Before we start mixing everything together. So my chocolate is melted, it's staying hot. This is whipping, my cream is ready. They're warming up the gelatin. So I want everything ready at the same time. All right. How's our gelatin looking? Almost ready? Almost? Yeah. Almost. Okay. Actually, I won't need that, Henry. I gotta spin my bowl. Okay. Our egg yolks look nice. And I'm gonna take this off and actually whisk all this in the bowl out here just so that you can see a little bit better. But I usually do the next two steps just right in the mixer. But I want you guys to be able to see a little bit easier in this bowl. So I have my egg yolks with my sugar. They're nice and pale and thick. Okay. And Allison is vigorously whisking, making sure our gelatin is warming up for us. We're almost there. All right, so that's warming up. While she's getting that, I'm gonna get my cream back out. And then if we could get our mold back out too, Henry, that would be wonderful. Okay, so gelatin is clear, it's steamy. Yeah, it's steaming, I can see it. So it's re-liquefied. Oh, now you're this way. Okay, but I think you can see that. You see that? It's liquefied. Okay, and it's steaming. I can see the steam coming up off of it. I'm gonna add that in all at once. Once we add our gelatin, we have to move quickly because it's gonna start to set, especially once we add in our cold cream. And we certainly don't want little balls of gelatin in our mixture, right? So I am doing that same folding technique, but more of a like stir fold so that it's quick, right? Once I have this together, I will add in my chocolate. You could have done the same thing. Like I said, if this was in the mixer, you could have added that right in while it was mixing too. Okay. All right. Now I'm adding in my chocolate. And get this mixed together. You can see that chocolate starts to really thicken everything up. Then I'll be very gentle when I start to, a little bit more gentle with my folding once I add in my cream. Okay. Here we go with the cream. I'm gonna just do it all at once. And remember, I'm moving quick because this chocolate is the cold cream is gonna start to set up my chocolate and my gelatin. And I don't want chocolate chips in my cream and I don't want little gelatin balls in my cream. So now I am doing that same motion of center up and over as I'm rotating my bowl. So I'm gently folding these together. All right. This looks beautiful. So once it's a nice cohesive mixture, it's nice and light. We can go ahead and add that into our mold. So we just have a portion scoop here. We're gonna add in probably 3. Is that what you guys did? You guys did 4? Okay. I'm gonna do 4. Okay. And then we have just a small for this mold for what we're doing. If we were doing like a full sheet tray of this, you could do like a large pan extender and then cut these into slices. Maybe if you're doing buffet service or something for large, or like I said, for retail, it says Retail Bakers of America. If you're doing retail size ones too, maybe it's not the same, but For the mold that we're doing, we just have a small little bowl scraper, and I'll use that to level this off so that we have nice even layers. Okay, almost there. How are we doing on time, Maritza? We're doing good, right?
You're doing fantastic.
Okay. So this will go back into the blast chiller, and I'm gonna let that set up so that I can glaze, okay? And voila, it's frozen. Okay. Isn't that nice?
You have some good
Move
TV
that
magic
aside.
happening over there.
Yeah, it's all magical at Schoolcraft. Okay. All right, so now we have our glaze. I'm going to talk you through the glaze. I don't think it's anything that's that exciting to watch me demo. But this is a really high gloss chocolate glaze. And so you would bloom your gelatin sheets in ice water. That's not the water that's listed in the recipe. That's a separate amount of water. So you'll bloom your gelatin in ice water. And then you'll heat the water that's in this recipe, the water, the heavy cream and the sugar, you'll bring that to a boil. And then you will whisk in I kind of sift as I'm whisking my cocoa powder in. While it's still hot, I'll add in my bloomed gelatin. I like to run it through a sieve after, just because sometimes cocoa powder will still kind of lump up just a little bit, and it'll get out any of those little micro lumps so that you got a nice smooth glaze. Yeah, I have a question here, Marissa, so I'm gonna stop for a second to get this question. I can't hear. Because of like religious reasons, right? So we have a lot of students who can't have gelatin because of religious reasons. You could sub in fish gelatin too. Fish gelatin works really well. We experimented a lot with that last semester. Okay. I'd
also like to add, Chef Heather, one of our viewers noted that on brand Rice Krispies do have malt syrup in them. So aren't gluten-free. So making sure if you are labeling something as gluten-free, that it's an off-brand gluten-free Rice Krispie.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's our glaze. It's nice and melted. I'm just going to pour some of that on. Okay. And then I'll just pick this up and I'm going to move this so that my glaze doesn't have any offset or palette mark knives in there. I want to keep it nice and smooth and shiny. I just kind of manipulated my sheet tray to keep moving it so that it glazed nice and level. Okay. All right. So now we're done with really building it out. Okay. So I would pop this back into the freezer or the blast chiller so that I could unmold this really easily. So again, with the magic, I'll talk you through this. We have one that's ready, that's been unmolded. And I'm going to tell you what we did as well. So we had that mold lined with acetate, right? We just had some acetate sheets that were on there. We took a torch to warm up the sides so that mold would come right off. Okay. The sides aren't like perfectly clean, like we like them to be in pastry, right? So we did take a hot knife and just slightly trim to get this like a nice clean side. Okay. So we clean this up. And so now you can see all the beautiful layers in there. Okay. And so we are getting ready to start garnishing. Thank you. You guys have I want to show them how to make this garnish really quick because I think we have enough time to do that. So they had some tempered chocolate and I'll walk you guys through this. Let me throw some gloves on. And we're doing some different textures, just some different looks. So visually you see like different textures, right? And so this is just some chocolate cigarettes. We did speckles of white cocoa butter. So to do that, we just took white cocoa butter on a pastry brush, kind of took our finger through the brush so that it splattered onto the granite, right? And then made a chocolate cigarette just like you usually do, right? I know everybody here should know how to make a chocolate cigarette from being in school. And hopefully everybody online does too. So I'm not going to show that. So we have some different little chocolate cigarettes. Just so that we have some different interest of some different colors on the top. I thought it looked kind of cool to do some milk chocolate rings. So this was tempered milk chocolate. And we just cut out some little milk chocolate rings. And then these are some cool, you know, we like to watch Instagram videos and stuff too. So this is a technique that we saw on Instagram that just showed some really cool, like kind of textured chocolate techniques. So to do that, Henry's got, we like to use drywall boards because they stay nice and flat. So you're going to need to zoom out here in a second so that they can see up here. This is a drywall board that's been lined with acetate. And I'm going to keep it on my speed rack upside down. Then this is a rose nail. And you could do all different sizes too, right? So you could use like the bottom of a wine glass. We did them even with a ramekin before. It got a little bit messy in class, but you know, Henry, when we were playing around with this, did some with some ramekins. So this is some tempered chocolate right here. And we're just going to dip that in our tempered chocolate. And I'm going to kind of quickly flip it right up onto my sheet tray with, or I'm sorry, my drywall board. And I'm going to just gently pull down slowly. And I don't know how well you guys can see. Is that a good view? Can we get a good view of this? Should I pull it off? Henry, do this. Can you see now, Marissa? No?
Not really. Mm-mm.
Oh, slide it out a little bit. How about that keeps going in and out.
Can you hold it sideways?
Yeah, why don't you try holding it? You guys tell me when it's a good view.
Oh,
Yeah, just back that up. So if you're by yourself, right, you'd have it on the speed rack, but we're gonna, I don't know what Allison's doing. She's gonna rig something for me.
like the
Good?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not, the drips are gonna be dripping down a little bit though. Okay, so I'm like this, and then I'll slowly pull outward. And really that would be straight up and down, right? So now you can see how you're gonna get the different textures and drips coming
right,
down.
but for the drip,
She's got it so it doesn't drip. So I think you at least get the idea. I included a photo of that. Henry, please. Thank you. I included a photo of that in the packet too. No, you can take it away now. Under the assembly part, you can kind of see what that looks like. Hopefully that's helpful. So it's just, I thought it was kind of a cool technique. I like the look of it. I don't know, it's really just kind of abstract looking, which I am partial to. So, okay, so let's work on garnishing this. This is just a design we put together, but you could decorate this however you wanted to. If you wanted to, you could, for retail, now cut this into some smaller slices, right? And then decorate it that way to go put out in the case. So I'm just gonna pick a couple different sizes here to kind of throw on. Odd numbers, right? Always working in odd numbers because that's how things occur naturally in nature. So they're more pleasing to the eye, keeps more interest. Do we have, actually, I'll just work off of this. This is fine. Thank you. Then we have some raspberries here that the team trimmed off the tops of here so that they'll lay flat. And you could throw those tops in with your preserves, right? Or make a sauce with it. You'll utilize it. We're not just throwing them away, right? So I'm gonna pop, I'm sorry, before I pop those in there, this is some snow sugar. And I'm gonna dip the tops of my raspberries in that snow sugar, just so it has a cool pop of white on there. Okay, and then just have fun. Decorate how, you know, what you like. I'll pop just a few on here. And in my pastry bag here, you guys have that cut, Henry? Okay, thank you. In my pastry bag here, we have that the same raspberry preserves that we made earlier. But I had the team strain it just so that I can squeeze it a little bit easier. Okay, I'm gonna put one more on. I'm just gonna go real abstract looking. Sometimes I have a hard time even being abstract. I like things in order. All right, so I'm gonna fill the holes of my raspberries with my raspberry preserves. Okay, thank you, Henry. Then I have my milk chocolate rings here. And I'll just throw a couple of those on there for some interest. Maybe tilting on these raspberries in a couple different directions. Right? And then I have my chocolate cigarettes with my white speckles on there. And maybe those look kind of cool popping in my rings here. Okay. And we are done. Whoa, oh, the lights went off.
So
That was
elegant.
weird. Yeah, so I don't know, I just think it's kind of modern and kind of contemporary, abstract looking. It's just you could decorate it however you want, but this is just the design that we kind of came up with, that we were partial to, that we liked. So that concludes my demo. If there's any questions or anything, Marissa, I'm happy to try to answer.
Yeah, I was wondering, before you glaze it, is it a product that would freeze easily once assembled?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So even you can even freeze this glaze. This glaze freezes really well too. So like I said, freezer is your friend. Freezer is our friend, even at the school. Because I mean, I know that people think, oh, well, you teach at a college, you're not responsible for anything, but we're responsible for a lot of production. We seat a lot of people for lunch and dinner. We have a cafe here that we sell retail pastries out of. So we definitely work out of our freezer too.
And then we had one more question, and it was with when you are glazing and you're not doing such a small piece, if you're doing a full sheet pan, would you still do the same technique?
Yeah, I would still do the same technique. I mean, you can, if you're going to be covering it, and you know, if you're experienced at spreading something out quickly, go ahead, use an offset. That's fine. But I guess I'm used to also working with students that are in a learning environment. And so they're learning to spread things out. And it's not one of those things that you can keep going over and over and over again, or you'll be left with all these palette knife marks within your glaze, right? But with the decoration, it covers up a lot. I will say that.
Yeah. Thank you. That was an excellent demo. Thank you so much, Chef Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's no other questions. We're going to eat here.
Yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to our junior chef on the call, Kayla, who is Chef Heather's daughter, who is also
Chef
watching.
Kayla's on the line.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Chef Kayla and Chef Sean, I'm sure, is sitting right beside her. So yes, my daughter very much is into all of this. So hi, baby. All right. So make it time, Marissa.
So thank you. Thank you, Chef Heather, and thank you, Schoolcraft, for hosting.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you to my lab assistants.
Yes.
They prepped all of this for me, so thank you.
And
thank you.
Thank you to the Washington Red Raspberry Commission. Make sure you check out redras.org. They have fantastic resources and recipes there for more raspberry recipes. And then be sure to check out retailbakersofamerica.org and our events tab for all of our other upcoming events.
Yeah, become a member, everybody who's here. RBA.
Get certified.
Right.
Absolutely.
Get certified.
All
Yes.
right. Thank you everyone so much.
Thank you, Marissa.
Bye.
All right, bye.